My parents were born at General Hospital. Myself and my 5 siblings were also all born there. As long as I can remember, my mom had been volunteering at the hospital. She was a longtime member of Providence General Children's Association, of which my sister Nancy and Jean and myself were all members. Jean and I, Nancy, we all served on the board at one time or another. I think the hospital was a huge part of Mom and Dad, from raising funds for the hospice center, raising funds for the cancer center. My mom thought very highly of her community and the need for this hospital and the mission of the hospital, to where serving the underprivileged, she thought that everybody needed to have access to state-of-the-art medical care. I am so proud of her for that. And in fact, 1 year after her cancer diagnosis, after her treatment, Providence General put together a team for Relay for Life. And I got my 2 boys. I had two kids at the time. The 2 boys, we pitched a tent. We spent the night with the rest of the Children's Association team and took turns walking around the track. But it was wonderful to see Mom take the first lap with the other cancer survivors. It was an awesome experience, and I hope that's one thing that my family, that we can do again. And in fact, I just want to say that my son, Christopher, who lives in the Bay Area, he and his then fiancée did the Avon Walk. The Avon, they walked 39 miles in 2 days to raise money for breast cancer. His fiancée, her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer a year before I was. So it's just another example of how prevalent and how unfortunate that cancer is out there. So to have a cancer center like the Providence Regional Cancer Center, I can't speak highly enough of it, and how grateful and how lucky we are to have such a center in our own backyard. I am proud to come from a family that was so community-minded, and to know that my parents were champions for the Providence Regional Cancer Partnership was heartwarming. It was funny because my mom was so unassuming. She didn't care if people knew that they contributed to the Cancer Partnership. She wanted it for the people of Everett. And so when I actually walked by and saw the sign, the plaque in the radiology department in my family's honor, I was like, whoa, it touched me. The Providence Regional Cancer Partnership was and is so important to this community. And to know that we had a small part in that, I'm okay with that. It was a routine mammogram. Found a spot, needed a follow-up check. It was a couple days before Christmas in 2015 that I had my biopsy. Then a couple days after Christmas that I got the results. It was a Christmas I won't forget, and it wasn't all bad. And my children, to have all 3 of them there, my son flew up from San Francisco. They were rocks. We laughed. We cried, but they never let me waver from the fact that I was not going to beat this. But when I first found out I had cancer, it was a huge kick in the gut. This feeling, oh my gosh, it was awful. Cancer taken a huge toll on my family. I knew nothing but death from cancer, and I cried. I cried and cried and cried. We lost my brother to cancer in 1983. He left a wife and 2 young children, and that was devastating. He was the only boy, my parents' only son. I just graduated from college, and that was my first real, that I can commemorate, experience of what this disease can do. Then 10 years later, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She received treatment and for 10 years continued her amazing life. And in 2010, my nephew's wife died of cancer. In 2011, that's when my mom passed away. And then in 2012, my sister's husband, Carl, okay, I want to say her name too. So in 2010, my nephew's wife, Melissa, was diagnosed, passed away of cancer. 2011 is when my mom passed away. In 2012, my sister's husband, Carl, passed away from cancer. So all I had known from cancer was a death sentence. And my husband also lost his father to cancer. So cancer devastated our family. So when I was diagnosed 3 years after all those, when I was diagnosed in 2015, it was scary. I was scared. I did not want to die. I had 3 children. I wanted to see get married. I wanted to see have grandbabies. The first thought that went through my head was, do I need to go to Seattle? Am I going to have to drive to Seattle to get the best, most up-to-date treatment? Then I took a breath, thought to myself, talked to my neighbor, doctor, and no, there's a cancer center right in my own yard, right in my own community, that my parents campaigned for, and that my mom actually had treatment at. I didn't have to drive to Seattle to get the state-of-the-art care. I did think I had a choice, and I thought it was very important to me that I make sure I made the right choice for the cancer treatment. You hear continually about the hospitals in Seattle, and you want to make sure that you choose the right course of treatment for you to give you the best chance at a long life. And so definitely the first thought was, ooh, Seattle, is that going to be the place that I need to go? And then I thought, in this day and age, internet, surely the doctors up here have to be so knowledgeable. I was very confident after the meeting with my three care team doctors that I had made the right choice. I could not imagine driving to Seattle every day for 5 days, every 5 days a week for 6 weeks for radiation. The thought of that, no way. It took me longer to get from my work to radiation than it did the actual radiation appointments. So I went in for the results of my biopsy to the Providence, to the breast center. And that's the appointment when I found out that, yes, it was cancer. And it was a malignant tumor, at least a stage 2, triple negative. And that's when that was 2 days after Christmas, And that was the kick in the gut. She had made the appointments for me to meet the doctors. That was after New Year's. So when I first met my oncologist, Dr. Wong, she was very positive. I'm so grateful for that. She's like, we can do this. And I went to my surgeon, who I adore, Dr. Soriano, and he told me that my type of cancer was a monster. He didn't mince words. But I had so much faith in him and Dr. Wong, Dr. Little, that I was like, okay, it's a monster, but I'll fight it. So I met my team of doctors, my 3 doctors. It's great. You meet them all on the same day. Dr. Wong, Dr. Soriano, Dr. Little, they would become my care team. We discussed treatment, and for my type of cancer, it was discussed that the course of treatment would be chemotherapy first, then surgery, then radiation. So I had a port placement put in. The end of January, I was getting ready for my first chemo treatment. I was doing okay in the morning. Took a walk, tried to, center myself. Showed up at the cancer center with my husband, Randy, and Nancy, my sister. Was doing okay. The minute I sat down in the chair, the tears came. And Nurse Debbie, she took my hand and she said, "You may have cancer, but cancer doesn't have you." And then she said, "Take one of your anxiety pills." So I did. But from then on, I'd have to say that the infusion room was one of my favorite places during this whole 8 months of treatment. The nurses were amazing. They are so caring and compassionate that, it may sound hokey, but I felt like it was my second home. And I spent a lot of time there, but they just put you at ease. They're wonderful at their job. Everyone at that infusion area, from the receptionist to the lab techs, who was one of my favorite people. I had a lot of blood drawn, and she was one of my favorite people. But the nurses, I can't speak highly enough of them. And it was funny because my mom thought the same thing. The 2 things that she remembered from her treatment were the nurses and how great they were, and the big windows. And I spent many a day looking out those big windows, looking at the beautiful cascades. So during chemotherapy, I got pretty sick, and I was trying to find some ways to deal with the side effects of the red devil, they called it. That was the name of my chemo drug. So I tried acupuncture. The Cancer Partnership offers acupuncture. I did that for several treatments. There's a naturopath that works out of the Cancer Partnership. He offered me supplements, some nutrition advice. I found his service to be invaluable, and I, as a matter of fact, stuck with him for several years after, a couple years after my treatment ended. I wanted to make sure that I was doing whatever I could to not have this come back. So I saw him. There's a support group there that I joined, and it's just nice to know that, and to talk to people that are going through what you're going through. I used the resource center. That was one of my mom's also favorite spots. The hats in there. You could just go in, look through to take a hat. I did lose my hair, and that was a lot harder than I thought. I thought, yeah, I would be able to handle that. It's just hair. It'll grow back. But it was hard because I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, whoa, this is real. I do have cancer. So losing my hair was that huge reality check. So I tried a wig, didn't quite go for that. So I just wore a lot of scarves and hats and embraced the fact that I didn't have to get my hair done for a year. So, but I am so grateful for the services. They don't only treat the physical, they treat the emotional. The counselor, Justine was a godsend. I would call her, could go in and talk to her whenever I needed to. Just the care, the compassionate support that the whole team at the Cancer Partnership provides. I couldn't imagine doing it alone. I did have an amazing support group from my family, my husband Randy, my 3 children, and an incredible group of friends that were so supportive of me. So I count myself blessed. I count myself lucky that I had that support group. But I know there's people out there that don't have the support from those at home. So to have a place that has such compassionate nurses and such, wonderful services that to be offered to those that weren't as fortunate as I was. After my treatment, I did the Cancer SIP Survivorship series. And along with a group of survivors. Survivors are hard for me to say. I still don't consider myself a cancer survivor. I don't consider myself cancer-free. I consider myself in remission. I'm little over 2 years out of the end of treatment. So I still get a sinking feeling in my gut when I think about cancer, or I hear the word cancer. Every time you turn around, it seems like another person has been diagnosed with cancer. And you just hope and pray that they're as fortunate as I was, to have the care and to have the support. Someone told me that they kind of look at their life as before cancer, BC, and after cancer. And I thought, I don't want cancer to define who I am. I really don't. But it's true. I think back and think of who I was, and now I think of who I am. Try not to sweat the small stuff. Try not to be so uptight. I think cancer, it does change you. And wow, for me to say it changes you for the better, I mean, that's hard. What good could come out of cancer, a cancer diagnosis? But some good did come out of it. My relationships are so much deeper. My faith is stronger. I'm excited to carry on the legacy that my mom and dad instilled in all of us. And I'm excited to volunteer, to help others, to share my story so that so that others know that a cancer diagnosis isn't the end of the world. I remember after treatment, my church was going to a mission trip to Mexico. And it was the 3rd mission trip that our church had done in the last few years. And my husband and 3 children had all been on the mission trip. I'm the only one that hadn't been on one yet. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going, I'm ready. And then I got the diagnosis, and I thought, okay, I'm not going. And I got treatment, And after my treatment was over, I wasn't feeling so bad. Physically, emotionally, I was still a mess. Until I thought, I'm going to go on this mission trip. I got permission from my doctor. So 8 months later, I was with my daughter Emily down in Mexico, building a home for a family. It was hot. It was humid. The conditions were awful, but it was amazing. I'm so glad, so thankful I got to share it with my daughter. It was hard work, but I'm so proud of myself for doing it. It was hot. It was humid. It was hard work stirring that cement, carrying buckets of rocks and sand, hauling them up to the roof. But I am so grateful and so thankful I got to do that, and looking forward to the next one. So, but I think it was important for me to have that to look forward to after I finished my cancer treatment, because you're fighting. When you're in treatment, you're fighting and you feel like you're doing something. When it's all over, you're thinking, now what? So to have something to look forward to, I think is so important. I'm getting to the point where I am ready and able to talk about my cancer journey. Journey's a hokey word, sorry, but it really is a journey. And in fact, a good friend of mine, her mom was just diagnosed with cancer just recently. And I got that sinking feeling in my gut that I usually get. But then moments later, I got this feeling of, I was excited. I was excited, not for her, of course, but for me to be able to share my story with her, to tell her how great my experiences were at the Providence Regional Cancer Partnership, to reassure her that she would get the best care there. I said, don't you hesitate to call me, and don't you hesitate to talk to those nurses, and you share all your concerns with them. That's why they're there. But it felt good knowing that what I had gone through, that maybe I can help others. I know there are opportunities to volunteer at the Cancer Partnership, and I think it's important to have, I don't know if mentors is the right word, but to know that there's people that you can talk to that have been through what you're about to go through. Before I started my treatment, I had a group of friends from church. They put a care package together for me, and it consisted of a beautiful quilt that I took with me to every infusion. They gave me a bracelet, strength, hope, and courage. They gave me a shirt. They put together a wonderful care package of coloring books, of a journal. But the quilt was something special. Each of them made a square, and they put it together. And just little things like that can make a huge difference. I remember one time during a radiation appointment, I went in, laying on the table, and it was hot. It was really hot in there, and it was bright. And then I hear this Hawaiian music, and I thought, okay, people, you're not going to convince me that I'm in Hawaii. You're not, no matter how hard you try. But it was just those little things that I don't even know that they do that makes their patients feel at ease. And so the care, I will reiterate that over and over, the compassion that the nurses showed. After my first chemo treatment, I was talking with someone who had been through breast cancer and chemo. And she talked to me a little bit about visualization. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put this poison in my body. I can look at it as a horrible thing, or I can look at it as that poison is doing its job. That poison is my fighter. So I would visualize at night my little army in there attacking those cancer cells, and that my healthy cells would take over. And I think that was one thing that really got me through. And I remember I sent out emails to some friends, because it's hard when you're going through this and people want to know how you're doing. And they're afraid to ask. They're afraid to call. So I decided to send out some emails to a group of friends and family. And I explained to them my army of little bearded men with swords and shields that was inside fighting for me. And I think they got a chuckle out of that, but that was my bedtime ritual. Okay, Red Devil, you start your fight, but because we are not going to let cancer win. On my last chemo treatment, I got a little certificate. The nurses were around. I remember thinking, wow, I'm going to miss this place. It's kind of funny. I'm going to miss these people the most. For follow-up care, I'm still on a 6-month, every 6 months. So I do get to go back, and I peek in the infusion room every now and then. But I will be going to the Providence Regional Cancer Partnership for many years. Unfortunately, 8 months ago or so, I was diagnosed with a stage 1 melanoma. So not only am I on 5 years from my end of treatment for breast cancer, I'm now on 5 years from my melanoma. So Dr. Wong and I will be we'll be seeing each other for a while. And but thank goodness that I have that to go. Thank goodness that they do follow up, and that I can drive across the trestle to my appointments to Everett and know that I have received the best care out there. I am blessed. I am fortunate to have received care at the Cancer Partnership. I am honored that my family had a hand in it. And I truly hope that I can carry on the legacy that my mom was so passionate about. And I hope I can pass that on to my children, because I think volunteering is so important. I think caring for your community, doing what you can to make your community a better place, is invaluable. Something good can come out of a cancer diagnosis. I think I'm proof of that. I think I'm a better person for it. And I do know that my relationships with my family and friends are definitely stronger, and I value them a lot more.